I can say this sort of, I guess you'd say prescriptively, but I invite other people to test this. I'm not saying take this on faith, but I will just jump to some of the bigger conclusions of what the takeaways are when you start seeing the world this way. And I think they include insights that relationship are key. Relationships are also real. They're not just because they're not matter that you can knock and feel, you know, they're not something, though, that's just made up and in your head. Relationships are profoundly significant. And that means human relationships. It means having friends, connecting with having loved ones. This could be family, it could be friends, it could be any number of potential relationships. But being part of community is a profound source of human flourishing that I feel like a lot of our modern world is increasingly making more difficult. So if people are just basically saying to themselves, why do I feel so crummy? Do you have a community of people that you feel tied into? Do you have friends? Do you have other relationships, other people you can speak to and be in dialogue with, get their perspective, and people who listen to your perspective? Those kinds of things are just essential for the good life. And if instead you find that the vast amount of your time is, again, like spent in a dark basement playing, you know, video games or something, and disconnected from a community of in real life kinds of relationship, that's something to kind of flag and be aware of. Another thing is health. What this orientation frames or brings to your attention in a vivid way is that meaning and value are about well-being and flourishing, which are other terms for being healthy and healthful and hale. It's an old archaic word. But being connected to that flow of energy and life and that kind of intensity that comes from being alive and being energized. That's really important. And so are you in touch with that? You know, is there some kind of sport that you engage in that you feel activated by? Is there some kind of outside activity that you're able to do? Is there a workout regime that gets you feeling in tune with your body and its healthfulness? What's your diet like? You know, are you eating garbage, or are you eating, you know, nutritious, quality ingredients, natural, you know, from the earth sustenance? Are you being sustained, or are you just basically addictively consuming? And all of these things interpenetrate in so many ways, so it's hard to kind of extract them all. But I guess I'm framing a couple of these aspects that come from rethinking meaning and value in terms of well-being. Another thing is kind of life purpose. Like, what are you spending your time for? What are you actually committing yourself to over the years of your life? And what is this goal? Is there a goal of any kind that you have in your existence? Do you have anything? Or do you feel like, my career? And then try to unpack that a little bit. And then it's soon like, to what end? Why? To make more money? Why? So you can buy more stuff? Is that what makes you happy? More stuff? Well, no. What actually brings flourishing and viability and vitality and well-being? So having a goal or a purpose, and that is deeply connected to your passions. Things that excite you and motivate you organically are key, right? Like, what actually energizes you? What are you interested in? Interest is a homing in on relevance and salience and significance for you. It's something that brings out of your mode of being a kind of intensity and passion, and it motivates you. It makes you emotive. It moves you in a particular direction towards a goal. And if you don't have passions and you haven't cultivated interests, it could be hobbies, it could be projects, it could be skills that you're developing, music, or being in a band, or trying to write a book, or whatever. this is something that those existentialist philosophers got right, is like having a goal, a project, a passion that moves you forward, that when you get up each morning, you're motivated and you're committed and you're excited. And there's a scope to that that gives your life a kind of plot line arc to it, that you're not just worried about tomorrow or the next day or the next week. You're not just thinking about your calendar and your commitments. You're thinking about your life and what you're going to do with your life. And when people think about meaning and significance and what actually is valuable to them in that way, so much of that is about, what are you spending your life in service of? What are you doing? And that's another thing too, is service. It's not just, I really like Pokemon cards, so I'm just going to obsess about Pokemon cards. Nothing wrong with that. But how would I say? If you can direct the same kind of passion and intensity as you might into some kind of hobby, into something that is actually of benefit to other people around you, that gives even deeper senses of meaning and significance and flourishing, because that, again, ties you into community and builds your sense of relationality. It connects you to a broader sphere. It makes your story about something bigger than you. So I could go on, but these are some ways that when you start thinking, hey, wait, meaning and value, those are actually real, and they're related fundamentally to the way that I move through the world towards greater or lesser well-being, flourishing, and viability, then it's just a question of what actually does that versus doesn't. And if we can cultivate that and be in tune with that process deeply, I think that's what wisdom is. And it, I think, naturally leads you to spend your time in specific ways and commit yourself to specific kinds of activities that deepen that process more and more, so that you sink deeper into meaning and value and significance over the course of your life in a way that just feels like more and more richness coming through, rather than just this narrowing drudgery, meaninglessness, feeling that everything that you're spending your time on ultimately doesn't serve anything and doesn't do anything for anyone in the end. So that's a profound contrast, and I think if more people could be living from that kind of orientation, the way that we live, the way that we show up in the world for each other, for the systems that we're a part of, would be radically transformed. And if that could happen at scale, so much of what we're seeing destroying the world and the short-sighted thinking and the kind of hedonistic abandon and meaninglessness that fuels that would be stopped in its tracks. And we could actually have collective flourishing and collective well-being, which I think is the goal of the good life.